Okay, let's, why don't we get going here? It's 5:30 sharp, but I know I don't look like Professor
What if we
Morris.
drop one of the?
Much younger, good, better looking. Don't tell him that. Although it's being recorded. So again, my name's Tom Reynolds. I have taught this course in the past as well. I'm going to be partnering with Professor Morris this semester and working with these entrepreneurs as you're working with them as well. My background, you just mentioned in the very first session that my background is consulting. If there's ever a professional consultant, I guess I would fall into that category since I did it for 35 years and actually got paid to do that. And I've worked for several of the very largest consulting firms out there and worked with some of the biggest and largest companies and smallest companies around the globe, all over the world. So my hope is that throughout the semester, we'll have a chance to spend time together. And if that's an interest you have, we can talk about that. And I've hired 2 people out of this course in the past to my prior firm, which was kind of interesting, and I can talk a little bit about that too. What we're going to do today is we brought in some guinea pigs, past students, to chat up with you, share some of their experiences, what worked well, what didn't, some of the challenges, what did they do, what are their deliverables? You've heard the D word at this point?
Yeah.
Deliverable. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then I think it also would be worthwhile and interesting for you to hear how this course benefited them. Usually, and I didn't trump them at all, there's always an exciting and interesting story around that. So why don't you 2 introduce yourself first, and then we'll jump right into it.
So Notre Dame introduction here. My name is Dominic Russo. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I live in Bomber Hall.
My name's Laura. I'm a senior. I live in Ryan Hall. I study economics and Chinese. And I'm from Brazil.
Couldn't be 2 different types of people, an engineer and an arts and letters.
Arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts. Okay.
Very proud.
Okay, so why don't you each, whoever wants to go first, just talk about who your entrepreneur was and what you did for them.
Okay. So my 2 entrepreneurs were Alan and Tiffany. Alan owns a trucking company, a very small trucking company that is currently being subleased out to a larger trucking company. And now he's driving around the South Bend, Northern Indiana region, and doing very successful. My other client was Tiffany, who has a Christian-based youth mentoring service. And so she does events with local churches. She does events with just kind of like faith community bringing together. It's not a non-denominational group, but if you guys are familiar with Young Life or kind of what they do, is kind of very similar to that. And sales are going good with her. With Alan, the process was a lot more about getting him set up with how to actually found his company. What did it look like for him to submit the paperwork? What did it look like for him to get the lease to his truck and to take out loans from the bank? And for Tiffany, it was a lot more organizational. How can we structure your organization in a way that will be most stress-free while you accept new applicants, that will be easy for you to communicate with all of the people in your program? And so kind of 2 very different sides of the consulting realm, but it's very possible that depending on what state your client is in, you could be bouncing around between many different topics.
Yeah. For me, I had one of my clients, Angela, she had a cleaning company. And my second one, Cynthia, she was a registered nurse. So she wanted to start a private healthcare company. Our projects were very different than Dominic's. Both companies were pretty much started, founded, LLC was done, everything was ready. The thing is, we needed to get them more clients. So for the cleaning company, she had 1 client when we started. She ended with 5 new others, like continuous contracts, 1 contract with the city of Elkhart. And then the second client that we had, she didn't have any clients. She just had the LLC, everything else ready, but she was kind of afraid to get that jump start. So most of what we did was getting her like started, getting her first clients and helping her, especially with advertising and, just finding your new clients.
Excellent. And if you think back, for both of you, if you think back, how did the process start in terms of understanding what it is you needed to do?
Okay. I think it was a lot of talking. I was lucky enough that both my clients were very direct. One of them had no accounting system. She had no clue of what she spent, how much money she made, if she was losing money, making money. She had no clue. So she was very straight up with me. She was like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. The second one, we need to ask her a little bit more questions. That's why during class, you're gonna get a few prompts and someone in the team should be writing them down diligently. And when you get to the client meeting, you should just talk to them and ask them the sort of like laundry list questions that Dr. Morris will kind of give you. And as they answer, you'll start identifying like, oh, she has never even thought about advertising. She has never even thought about creating a social media account. Okay, we should start thinking about helping her create a social media, getting her a logo, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the beginning was an absolute very hard part to begin with. Because I had taken some business classes in high school, so I thought that I was relatively familiar with kind of how to navigate the business scene. But one of the things not covered in the business classes was how to start up an actual company. And so it required Claire and I, who was my partner, to do a lot of research and a lot of work on our own. Because if our client was really kind of clueless on the proper steps to set up a company, we were kind of even more clueless. And so I think an unexpected part of this opportunity, which turned out actually a huge benefit, was that we had to learn alongside the client. It's not like the client came to us saying like, okay, I want this, and this done, but I just kind of need your help with the busy work. No, like you are very much almost being a co-owner of the company at that point. You are getting just as much involved in their organization as they really are kind of themselves. I would also say that the other challenging part about it is just the first time meeting them. I mean, they're, intrigued to kind of see like, okay, like they're students from Notre Dame. Like, I don't really know what to expect here, like hopefully I get good students, but they're just as uncertain about how you guys are going to be as you guys are uncertain about how they're going to be. And so I think the number one thing to remember, which is obviously kind of basic, but it's true, remember ultimately that these people are human, right? And that the key to any kind of good working relationship with someone is really kind of a good personal relationship. So making sure that when you get there on the first day, don't just immediately start talking about a business plan and immediately start hammering them with very technical questions. Get to know them because you're going to be spending like 13, 14 weeks with them. And it's very easy to just kind of start going down this rabbit hole of questions and you don't actually connect with them personally. But if you connect with them personally, they'll be a lot more open and a lot more honest, and it will just kind of make that transition into asking the technical questions a lot easier.
This is a very, very important point, and we're going to come back and spend a good bit of time talking about this and how to do that. But I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just came from work. I'm Claire.
Yeah, Claire, why don't you we just did introductions. Tell us a little bit about your experience and your entrepreneur, and in particular, what did you do?
Yeah, so I worked across 2 semesters with Dr. Morris for 3 different clients. I took his marketing class last spring, so I worked for a client who had her own like vegan skincare business. So I was doing a lot of marketing for like chapstick, body butters, that kind of thing. And then in the fall, I did the consulting and development class. So I did also like some marketing stuff with a hair salon and a laundry delivery services business.
So you talked a little bit about what your challenges were. Either one, maybe Claire, you can jump in and talk to us about what your challenges were when you wanted to draw entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so I'm like more on the creative side, hence like why I said marketing. I'm not someone who's great with numbers. So some of our clients needed help with like putting together accounting books, like figuring out how much it would cost to hire so and so employees. And I just wasn't well versed in that in any way. And I felt like there was no way that I could really like learn those skills in time and able to be able to prepare her to do that herself. So I was just able to split kind of my skill set with my partners. I think although you do want to teach yourself everything possible about your client and their business, it's not really practical to know how to do everything. So she was, I think, a business analytics major. So we kind of just divvied it up where she would do most of the like actual calculations, and then I would do stuff like, let's say, graphic design because she was doing interior design, renovating her salon. So like I was in charge of like, I guess, putting together the wallpaper and like picking out different furniture. So I would say like use your skills to your advantage. Again, like it's good to know a little bit about everything, but it's not really possible to teach yourself how to do like accounting.
Any questions from the field here? Otherwise, I'll keep asking questions, but ask. This is your chance. For people that have been through it before.
Hi guys, thank you so much for the introductions. I have a question. So you probably encountered some like conflict situations, like misunderstandings, maybe like your opinion wasn't really in line with the client. So how did you resolve such situations? Like how would you find a way out?
Okay, I had a similar situation. I think for me, it was not even that much of a conflict. It was a struggle with making the client believe us in a way. It was making the client agree to do what we're suggesting, and that because she was very set on doing her way. And we were like, well, you've been doing your way for 2 years. It hasn't gotten you any clients yet. Maybe let's try this other way. So that conflict was, we had to sit down and look a lot about it from her perspective, like, see, this is her baby, right? She kind of looked at us a bit of like, oh, you're a bunch of Notre Dame students. Like, after this class ends, this is not your life. This is my life. So I'm gonna do what I want to do, right? So the way we resolved this conflict was like doing what Dominic said, of building a really good relationship with her. So she knows like, hey, we care about this just as much as you care about this. This is not a grade for us. We're doing this because I could have taken any other class that would have filled my requirement, any other class, right? I'm here because I want to be here and because I care about the outcome of this. So making sure that the client understands that will make the conflicts go down and like the emotions.
Thank you.
I think also just bring options to the table. Like I had a client who was really sad about using an AI generated logo, but it didn't match like any of the design of her business. It was like neon, the fonts were all different. You couldn't even really figure out what the business was. So when I proposed changing the logo and bringing in a new design, she was like really adamant about no, she wanted to do the original. But I had already brought with me a couple of different like Canva mockups of potential designs. So the fact that I just had them right there and then for her to look at made her change her mind pretty instantly. And I feel like if I were to have not brought them to the meeting, we would have kind of tabled it for another time or it would have dragged into a problem that could have lasted over the course of a couple of weeks. So I think as long as you're prepared and you have that information ready, that could be really helpful with those last minute decisions.
Any other questions?
What did the entrepreneurs think about you being ND students?
Like, well, initially they were kind of skeptical. It was not even that much about us being Notre Dame students. It's about the age gap, right? Most of us are undergrads. Some of us aren't even 21. So they look at us, they're like, well, what do you, who is probably very, spoiled, let's just say, and who's 20 knows about life? You probably know absolutely nothing. So it was just fighting that, like, hey, we may not be as life experienced as you are, but we are here with all like the goodwill in our heart and all the academic knowledge that we got from Notre Dame to help you.
Yeah, I would say, as it pertains to my client Alan, it was interesting because I think he came in with the mindset that being Notre Dame students, we would have the answer to kind of every problem, which was kind of not what I was expecting to face. I was expecting
What
more
you
so
got,
that kind of challenge. But I quickly realized as we were talking with Alan that he was basically just gonna go along with whatever we said. And Claire and I had to kind of push back against that and say like if you agree with us, perfect, but this is your business. This is all about the direction you want your company to go in. My role as a consultant isn't to get you all the solutions. My goal as a consultant is to help you figure out how to best create your business. And so my one recommendation with the clients there would, as it pertains to us being ND students, is to kind of say like, yes, we are Notre Dame students. Yes, we are some of the smartest people our age in the United States, but that doesn't mean we have the answers to everything. And this needs to be a collaboration. It's not just all us being able to solve the problem for you.
Yeah, so Claire, you mentioned you had a little, I guess, disagreement about a logo with the client. And this might be like a bit of a fluffy question / hard to answer, but like how often you say with your deliverables or your recommendations that the client agrees with you or disagrees with you? And if they do disagree, how often do you push back and try to advocate for like your opinion, or how often do you compromise? Like, what does that process look like in the end?
I'd say mostly they're pretty happy with a lot of the things you bring to the table, like just the fact that you might have a stack of papers, it doesn't matter so much like what the paper says. It's the fact that you brought something to the meeting that maybe they haven't seen before. So I'd say usually they're pretty receptive. When they're not, I think bringing in outside perspectives is really important. So sometimes, like I took the class with Dr. Morris, and something that he would always say is blame me. So like if I was trying to push the logo and she didn't like it, I'd say, oh, well, Dr. Morris thinks. And so because you have kind of like an outside superior authority figure who seems to know what they're doing, to kind of like rely on for that sort of support, it's good to bring in that as a reference, if that kind of makes sense. Like you said, sometimes they won't listen to us because they just think we're young or we're inexperienced. But if you refer back to someone who has all of those qualities, it brings you more legitimacy.
So oftentimes, new consultants, you think it's your job to bring the answer. But in essence, you're jointly creating an answer. So they will own, if it's done correctly through the process, you will create a solution that's jointly developed. And it's hard, really hard for them to reject their own ideas. And the skill becomes how creatively you make it their idea. Honestly. But it really, honestly, it could be their idea, then you're just doing the analysis and research around that. Other questions? Yeah.
How would you approach a problem that you or your partner doesn't quite know the answer to? Dr. Morris.
There's a lot of Dr. Morris. You guys will have, at least we had in our year, we had basically weekly office hours with Dr. Morris. So by the time that you start actually developing your things, you will have an assigned weekly meeting with Dr. Morris to show everything that you're doing and ask the questions that you are asking. But also the chat can help. Like I've used ChatGPT to help with creating, I'm not an accounting major. I don't know anything about accounting, but my partner was an accounting major. So he knew a lot about the stuff that we were doing. I didn't. And sometimes he was like, Laura, I need help. I have too much work to do outside the class, blah, blah, I need help. So I would have to step up and finish doing the accounting book. And then I had to use a little bit of Google AI to help.
Other questions? Yeah.
I just wonder how many hours you dedicate to, for example, because a lot of us are not business majors and we don't really know a lot about specific business matters, like how much extra research hours you dedicate each week into like fixing the issue of the client.
Honestly, a lot. Like I'm not a business major either. I'm global affairs. So I would spend like the office hours with Dr. Morris. I'd have a separate like appointment with my partner in the week. So I feel like honestly, a couple of hours every day, just because again, like I'm not business. So I was having to teach myself a lot of things outside of class. But it really just depends on the quality of work you want to produce for your client. Like if you say you want to just do kind of mediocre, like get the assignments in, probably just like the amount of time you'd spend on any other class. But I think my partner and I really wanted to go above and beyond and make sure that Entrepreneur was really equipped for success. Maybe like 3.
Yeah, but I feel like it also depends on how well you space what you're doing. Because me and my partner have been producing our stuff since week 3 of class. So then when the last couple of weeks came, obviously we had to put a little bit more work, but it was more about compiling everything together and like writing the explanation for everything than doing the actual work itself. So what I advise you guys to do is to Not be like, okay, I'm gonna do an accounting book, a logo, this and that, and then leave it for the last week. Do not do that. You're gonna die. Like, start doing it now, start planning it, do it a little by little, talk to Dr. Morris. By that time, with that, like, good division of time, you have like the ability to fine tune it according to Dr. Morris's suggestions and everything. And you won't be crammed up. at the
Here's
end
what
of
I'll
it.
tell you, in terms of my experience and the time that I've taught the course and then other times supporting the course. Don't be afraid to ask for thoughts, guidance, and like, don't go off and spend hours and hours and hours doing things without having a real good understanding of how you're going to get to the end. And you'll save hours and hours of time.
This is what I would say as well, if I could, since this is an unfiltered perspective here. This course was a lot more work than I was expecting. And I probably spent more time on this course than any other of my courses, especially for that semester. Because it's important to realize that this is effectively a job. It's both a class and the job. Because not only are you learning how to be a consultant, you're also actively being a consultant. And so it is a lot of hard work and it is a lot of dedication that you are gonna have to commit. And that's not to say that this course should be avoided in any sense, because we're Notre Dame students, we never back down from something just because it's hard work. But it's very important to echo what my two friends up here said, because you have to space this work out. It is fundamentally just so much work with two clients. They will be reaching out to you at several points throughout the week. And there are times that you're working in the middle of one of your other classes, but you have to stop that homework for a second to answer a question that your entrepreneur texts you about. You're gonna have to go online and try to figure it out along with them. There is a lot of time dedicated to it, so
So with that backdrop.
Yes.
That sounds kind of dark.
it does.
Do you have any regrets? And what benefits did this course bring to you, all of you?
Like regrets about taking the class or certain aspects.
And is there any
You did
regrets you
during the
have?
class, like
Were
if
there
you would've done
benefits that
it.
were derived from this? You do? What,
I mean, in a brutally honest assessment for myself, I probably would not have taken the course again, because with the amount that I tried dedicating to other clubs and other activities and other extracurriculars, it just really was kind of too much work on my plate. I would have either had to chosen between this consulting class or between my research and my interest in Rocketry Club. And my interest in Rocketry Club and my research would have probably triumphed over wanting to take this class. But I mean, if you are someone who is interested in consulting, this I don't mean to be clear, dark, it is like really fun work. And I did have a really good time working on it. It's just, you only have a certain amount of time. And so if you're gonna do this class, be passionate about it. Don't be afraid to invest a lot in it.
what do you two?
I'd say my like biggest regret is not being as organized. I mean, like you said, there's just so many different documents, files, materials you're gonna collect. Like I think I had hundreds of pieces of paper and I would just kind of shove them into a binder and say like when the final write-up or the week of the final write-up comes, like I'll sit down with my partner and we'll organize all this stuff. And that actually took the longest part of like everything in the process just because we were so disorganized. I think the best advice Dr. Morris gave us in the beginning was if you open Google Docs, there's like this option where you can make a table of contents. I would just put everything into one doc and organize it kind of week by week. So the Google Docs can kind of sort everything like tab by tab for you. So when you're doing the final write-up, like I did in Canva, I could just kind of copy and paste page by page instead of like sorting through and being like, oh, this is supposed to go in deliverable 1, this is supposed to go in deliverable 4. And I think that would have saved like a lot of tension between myself and my partner. Just a lot of stress in general.
Laura, what about you? What did you get out of this course?
Okay, on a more positive note, I think that I learned a lot. I worked at McKinsey this summer. I got a return offer, and I think that most of my return offer comes from Dr. Morris. All the things that I learned from him. I think Dr. Morris is very stern on organization, and I'm a very disorganized person. So I think it taught me like the basics of organization. It taught me how to think about things in a more business way, but it also taught me how to look at the problem and at the business from the client's vision and not from just mine as a Notre Dame student. It taught me how to say, okay, well, my client this summer is X company. They're going through this. Okay, this is what they're thinking. This is the thinking that led to this problem. This is how we're gonna fix the problem without causing as much friction. So I think I got a lot of great stuff out of it. I would have done it again a million times.
Did you use it in your interviews?
Oh, yeah. I honestly, I
A little
think,
bit about that.
I think that was a little bit of my highlight on my resume at this point. I'm a Chinese major, so I needed something kind of businessy to say, hey, I'm not just a random arts and letters kid. I have a minimum business acumen. So I talked about it, not during my final round, but during my middle round. And it was not even a question from the interview, it became a conversation with the interviewer, and he started asking me about this, and he was super interested. And yeah, I think it really did a good thing for we call it the PEI, but for the personal part of the interview, for the behavioral, it's kind of like the companies are now looking, especially McKinsey, we're looking for people who are good people, right? We're not just good in accounting. Okay, I'm great in accounting, but I suck as a person. No one's gonna want to work with that kind of person. So they're looking for people who care about others. And if that person cares about others, and for example, in this class, odds are they'll also care about the client and care about the other consultants they're working with every day.
Great.
And I should just say, I did get a lot out of this class. I am not discouraging anyone. And in fact, I
We
did
don't want to hear from you anymore. Get out of here.
I did an internship this summer in Mexico with a nonprofit organization. And I think a large part of why I got that role was because I was able to talk about the work that I did with these clients, kind of in this very communicative role. It showed that even though I'm an engineer, I can also very much communicate with people. So there is a lot of benefit to it, just to be clear.
Was that a good recovery? Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Appreciate it. We can applause, yeah. Okay, we have an entrepreneur here. Gonna put you in the big seat.
Okay.
There was supposed to be another, but
Okay.
you're gonna be the highlight today.
Right.
Thank you for being here. I
Thank
don't know
you
if
for-
we had a chance to meet one another. I'm Tom Reynolds. I work with Professor Morris, probably met in the past. This group is so eager to hear from you
Okay.
today. They want to understand what it's been like from your perspective in going through and working with students. So why don't you start off by introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your business, and then we'll jump into it. And they'll be asking you questions and I'll be asking you questions too.
Awesome. So, how you doing? My name is Janielle Hines. It's like Danielle, but with a J. I am the founder and CEO, CAO, administrator, all of the above of HeartServe Home Care Agency, where we provide in-home care to individuals with disabilities and elderly individuals in the community. And I absolutely love what I do. This business was birthed. I was taking care of my mother, who is legally blind. She has glaucoma. And I was working for an agency taking care of her for 8 years. And as I found out the amount of money and income and impact that you can make through owning one of these kind of businesses, it made me start my own. I started the entrepreneur program in the beginning of 2023. And it absolutely changed my life. I loved it. If I could take it again, I would. I love everything about the classroom setting. I love everything about being in groups. I love everything about learning. But more importantly, I love everything about entrepreneurship. The reality is entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You have to be a little crazy to want to jump out there and do something like this. But it's so rewarding.
Tell us a little bit about the process when you went from the classroom to work with the Notre Dame students.
Absolutely. So
What was it like when you first met them and what did it feel like? And
it's, for me personally, it's amazing. Just because me personally, I love the classroom setting. I love learning. I love being around people who like to teach and learn. And I feel like, you all have so much to offer. Especially coming from an educational background, you bring so much new insight and perspective and excitement from, a diverse world that maybe a lot of people that you'll be interacting with their business have never been in. And it's exciting. It's exciting. So for me, I was excited. I was
did you
excited.
have any frustrations during that process?
I
Was it all a bowl of cherries?
I wouldn't say
Like
it was.
it is, just tell us like what it was like.
So I wouldn't say it was all a bowl of cherries, but I would say sometimes working with consultants or students, sometimes you may work with individuals, I'll put it like this, you may work with individuals who may work a little bit harder than others or may put in more work than others. So sometimes that was a little frustrating for me. Yeah.
Questions from the group as well.
Yeah, what was the biggest challenge you faced in the business process that the student consultants managed to help you with?
So for me personally, I would say marketing. Marketing was the biggest challenge for me. And the students that helped me, and I still get help from student consultants to this day, phenomenal work. I have nothing bad to say, but it's a partnership. So there's been times where all of my business cards, all of my pamphlets were made by Notre Dame students. My website made by Notre Dame students. Beautiful. But there's been times I would say, like my employee badges. No, I want a green, but not that green. I want a color, I don't like that wording, I don't like this, and it's a partnership. So I would say one of the biggest things that I struggle with, that I got help with, was marketing. Marketing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, makes sense.
When you mentioned that, also thank you for coming. It's really nice having your perspective. But when you say some students aren't prepared or just they make more work than others, like, do you mean, is it their attitude or is it just the preparedness, like they don't come prepared to the meetings, or is it more their attitude?
I would say all of it collectively, because the reality is just because, so entrepreneur, people who are really serious about entrepreneurship, it's like their baby. So for me, it's like my baby, but what may be important to me, it may not necessarily be important to you. So I've had student consultants and students who've helped me who go 100%. And then I've had others that I work with where I may come in to the hub or come around and I'll specifically ask for so-and-so, just because I know that they're going to bring their A game when it comes to helping me and things with my business. So.
Is your question
Does
over
that
here?
answer your
Yeah,
You had a question? Someone had a question over here. Did you?
it was answered. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Nice to meet you. Did you meet with the consultants, the student consultants, at another time in the week other than the specified slot that you had on Thursday, or might have been a different day? Did you meet multiple times a week? Is my question.
Yeah, so for me, it has always been flexible. It has always been both ways, sometimes multiple times a week, sometimes just really when their schedule permits. Or
Well,
when
she's
we-
asking, there's Thursday night meetings
Okay,
every Thursday for the next 12 weeks.
okay.
She's asking, did you meet with the students outside of those normal Thursday night meetings?
Routinely.
I wouldn't say routinely, but yes, we did. We went, had lunch. So sometimes there were relationships that were built and everything like that, so yeah.
Who paid for lunch?
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
What was the cause of, like, probably the biggest disconnect that you had with the students, or maybe like, what's one thing that you wish the students were better able to understand about the entrepreneurs?
I would say that, so not only are the Notre Dame students, it's like a two-way street. So even as you're bringing your insight and wisdom or your research, you're also learning as well. So I think that that's important to know that it's a two-way street. To know that it's almost like you're mentoring and consulting, but you're also taking in information as well, whatever you're learning from the person that you're consulting or the entrepreneur. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing, Danielle, we hear from a lot of the entrepreneurs is the students operate in a world of semesters. Business operates on a calendar year, and so the timeline of the student versus the timeline of the entrepreneur isn't always sync. The students are in a hurry to get done by December 10th, and
Yeah.
you may be thinking a different way.
That's true. That's true. So again, I think it's, I would say this, even though this is your class, you're taking a class, you're partnering with someone who has a baby. You want to strive to serve them in excellence. So sometimes, even in that semester, it may cause you to have to stretch and go a little bit more and beyond to probably serve the entrepreneur that you're working with. And it may have to stretch you just a little bit more, just for a semester than you would like.
And you don't want to tell them their baby's ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, all of the babies aren't cute, and you may not understand the parenting style, if you will, if I could use it like that. But it's about perspective. And have fun. Can I say that, Dr. Morris?
Yeah.
Have fun.
You've given a lot of useful feedback and input. What other coaching would you give these anxious consultants?
So I would say, first of all, congratulations, because even though you're in a class and you're taking a class, you're serving someone else. And if I'm not mistaken, that kind of goes in like the foundation of with Notre Dame. So you get to serve and help someone else, and you get to bring your ideas, you get to bring your perspective, you get to bring your research, and what you bring to the table can ultimately help somebody scale their business or open their mind to a whole nother stream of revenue that in their business that they didn't even think about. So like, congratulations. You all are like, what y'all doing is dope. Like, this is exciting. This is exciting. So I have no complaints at all.
Did it change or impact your business, your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell us how?
Yeah, I have it, I wear it every day. I literally wear it every day. I went today to meet with the client, and she told me, she said, you're one of the only agencies that I've ever seen that has worn a badge. I didn't make them. I don't know how to do that. My lane is building a business, administration. I don't know about marketing. I don't know how to do those things, but you all do, some, you know, this is y'all lane, like, this is what y'all do, so I get to wear it every day, like, I wear it every day, and not only do I wear it, my team wear it, like, it's mandatory, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm getting a little specific here, I guess, but I've never really done anything like this before, and I anticipate the clients I'm gonna be serving or working with are very different than me. So if I might ask a specific question, like when you are in those first stages and building that relationship and trying to get to know the person you're gonna be working with, like, are there specific questions or ways of going, like phrases or wording even that, like, you think a student should ask to get to know someone, or can it just be like a simple tell me about yourself? Like, I'm just wondering what to ask.
That's it, you said it. Tell me about yourself. Be yourself. Because what you bring to the table, what you have to offer is something new and fresh for them, and vice versa. You're not just going there just to teach them or help them. You're also, you're making a deposit, but you get to make a withdrawal too. So just be yourself and ask questions, just like ask questions. Well, why do you want to do it like this? Okay, well, what do you think about this? Well, what makes you want to do it like this? Because if you can ask them questions, and then that'll open up your mind to say, okay, well, let's do this and this and that. And ultimately, you can be the world changer to where you may open up a whole new revenue stream for them just by asking them questions and them making a deposit in you and then you making a withdrawal. So have fun, hit the ground running, get an A and and get out of here, you know, as fast as you can, and then make impact, serve and make impact. And that's what I would say. That's how I would answer that question.
Thank you, Jenya.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I mean, you should know she's incredibly busy. She's an entrepreneur, but we call and she comes and shares and is open and candid. I now have to learn how to use the word dope in class. But thanks for the time.
Thanks for that money. It's there, it's just.
Is that great? There's a little more comfort.
I think it's helpful and necessary to hear both sides of it, so, yeah.
Okay, so, and you get to know Tom a little bit. You're gonna meet Tom a lot. He's gonna spend a lot of time with us and with the teams. He'll talk a little bit more about, some of his background, and he's got a whole lifetime of consulting work. For those of you, there was one or two people who were engineers. Tom was an engineer by training, but became a business consultant, and so you get to know Tom more. So I have teams and I have client assignments for you. So, and I'm not sure I have everybody. So, this was sort of getting feedback from you when I got it or when I didn't get it. So, let me pass these around. And there's a few to be assigned, but every team has a assignment. Do I get one? So if I have anything wrong, first thing, tell me I got something wrong, which is always possible. There's a couple teams I I still need team names for, these team names are interesting, introspective, Caritas, who's to Caritas? What is that?
It means like charity, love.
Love.
Yeah.
Okay, good, nice. Results together, auto auction. Then EO, is that from your names or what?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is from our names.
Did I say it right? Sen EO? Okay. Auto action. AC has to be initials, right? EM is initials, and then B and G is, there's a lot of initials going on here, but. And you can change your name if you want, if you don't like your name or whatever. It's just by the first meeting on the 11th, hopefully we solidify. And if I missed you, or you're gonna have a teammate and Andrew. Andrew. Yeah, Andrew, where are you? So you got. Couple of options, you get to choose how we do that. Okay? All right, so is your question?
Yeah. I was going to ask, what happens if like the entrepreneurs can't really like meet when it comes to management?
What do you mean?
Like, what if they can't meet when
They have to meet on Thursday night, that's their
okay,
commitment.
so like
They're locked in.
they're okay.
And if there's any problem with an entrepreneur, we quickly fix that, because you don't want to get into October and start over with a new entrepreneur. So any sort of sign that there are problems, that they're not dependable, but we've like made a huge issue of 12 commitments, sign here, so they will be there on Thursday nights. So what are you thinking? What are you wondering? A good thing to be wondering is, a good thing to be wondering is, where do I start? How do I get started? As you're gonna see, there's a plan here. So I would, at this point, let me say a couple things about, what did I do with that?
Everything has been minimized.
Yeah, just make sure you have the syllabus. I gave that to you first day, but the Canvas site, make sure you're accessing that and looking at it. Because here's a big difference. When you're in a normal course, there's sort of a topic this week, and then a topic this week, and a topic this week, and an exam. Don't think of it that way. So if you look at modules on the course site, that's where everything is. You really don't need anything else on this site. But you see the course documents here. And you'll refer to those all through the semester. They help you with specific things. There's examples of things. Anything I'm asking you to do, there's examples of. As an aside, I'm up in 401 of this building. Anytime you want to come by and look at deliverables students have produced in the past, the write-ups, we can arrange that for you so you can just get a sense of the end game, what happens at the other end of the rainbow. But then, and I'm going to refer to a few of these, like the letter of engagement, okay, which is the first thing you're going to do. But then you get into the weeks of the course. So last week, module 1, this week. So if you see, like this week, digging into your client's market analysis, bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is module 5, right? Operations is module. Come on, Mike, there it is, 11. Where you have to do sort of a gear shift in your head is, I'm covering the topics in the order that makes sense. and in the order so that flows, but also in the order of their relative criticality for your consulting. But let's say you have a client, Danielle mentioned this, because getting sales is the biggest thing for most of these ventures, which means marketing comes into the picture. So let's say you have a client who has a marketing problem. Where's marketing covered? Well, it is. Social media is covered in week 9, marketing's covered in week 7. What I'm saying is, don't worry about the order of the modules, that's when I'll cover it. But you may need to refer to that module sooner, because that's a priority. So it's, the logic of consulting isn't flow, topic, exam, it's sort of a potpourri of critical topics and tools and frameworks and things that'll help you, but you need to get used to, well, we haven't come to that yet. No, go ahead and jump ahead and look at a module if it's a topic that seems especially important for your client. Does that make sense? Okay, so, and anything you have to read is in the module. Okay, so there's not like other reading assignments or outside reading or whatever. There's a book that is recommended on consulting in general, which is sort of a background resource. Everybody should have the 80 Steps book, the how-to, but that's it. There's no, everything else is on the course site, or I will hand out in class. So if you're like wondering, am I supposed to be reading something for Thursday? It's just the stuff in the module. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so if we switch back to consulting itself, what's gonna happen? We got up to talking about what process consulting is. I asked you to read a reading about process consulting, and then the processes in a business. That the engagement itself needs to be managed as a process. Always, and Danielle, I was so glad she said this, because I didn't coach her up when I asked her to come into class. I just said, we're gonna ask you some questions. The students will ask you some questions. But she stressed doing it with the client, not for the client. That it's a two-way kind of thing, that it's an interactive kind of thing. And so you always want to be thinking about their mindset in terms of where they're coming from, and your mindset in terms of where you're coming from. Two-way. You got to be engaged with the client. I will tell you this. This course, when it's over, you'll see yourself differently. But it isn't any more work than a regular course. It's just you control when you're doing the work, and it's not tied to this exam or that term paper or whatever. So if you're making steady progress on stuff, that all will work out. The point though is to come to know the client's business, to wrap your head around their business, to come to know aspects of the business better than they do. Because there are aspects of their business they don't understand, they don't know as much about. You heard Danielle. What'd she say? I don't know anything about marketing. I know how to do, but I don't know anything about marketing. That's common. That's good. And some of you are sitting there going, Mike, I don't know anything about marketing either. But that's okay. We'll give you tools, we'll give you the techniques, we'll give you the support. You're trying to convey legitimacy, integrity, interest in their business. So in between meetings, if you go online and it's a catering business and you see a really interesting sort of practical article about catering, or some cool caterer in, what's your hometown?
Incline Village.
Incline Village, Nevada, is it Nevada?
Yeah.
Bring that story, print it out and bring that story to the meeting. You go, yeah, we were doing a little outside research on your industry. Thought you might find this really interesting. Why would you do that?
Show that you care a lot, you're putting in extra work, you wanna help. them.
Yeah, it says, when I go away from you, I don't forget about you. I'm thinking about your business. It just suggests an engagement on your part. So you're trying to come to know the business as well as you can. I'm gonna explain how you're gonna do that. It's important to listen. Listening is a huge part of consulting. Tom's gonna talk a little bit about relationship building in a consulting relationship. But if you get to the end of the meeting, right? And you go, okay, we had 60 minutes with the client tonight. How many of those minutes did the client talk? And how many of those minutes did we talk? Be cognizant of that. Be sort of self-aware. And if you talked for 45 of the 60 minutes, that probably wasn't a great meeting. You know, now sometimes the clients will talk for 50 minutes, but go off on weird tangents, and you had 3 things you wanted to accomplish that night, and so you got to manage the client as well. But listen to what the client's saying, but listen to what they're not saying. You have a 2-person team. So if you're asking questions, right, and you're the teammate, what should you be doing? You could be writing things down, but what else should you be doing?
Listening.
Yeah. Yeah, good. And you should be, because the person asking the question is focused on the question, you should be observing the client. You should be thinking, what are they not saying? What are they not bringing up? What are they avoiding? What's something that got asked and they couldn't quickly enough change the topic? Right? You're looking at body language of the client. You know, what sort of loosens them up and makes, they get free form, and what sort of tightens them up and they sort of freeze up or stop talking about that, or change the subject or whatever. But be observant of what's going on, because that gets you go, well, why does she react that way when that issue comes up? You find ways to probe and you uncover something incredibly valuable in terms of what's holding back the business. Something with the entrepreneur, something surrounding the business or whatever. So become observant. Don't just listen to what's not being said, but also look at the body language. Look at the expressiveness, the other kinds of behavioral responses, but also the mindset of the client that need to build trust. You're a Notre Dame student. That means you're pretty smart. So they start from the premise of this is a bright young person. But do they know my business? Do they understand me? Do they understand my context? Do they, you know, and you know, we have one entrepreneur, I saw him yesterday. It's a good idea, a good example of what happens to these entrepreneurs. But he started with a what's it called? VR, virtual reality. He started with a virtual reality business. You know, where you put the thing on your head and do virtual reality things. You know what I'm talking about. So, because I don't know. But he opened a store downtown. What do you think happened?
It's really expensive to run a VR merchandise store.
He wasn't selling. He was coming in and having a VR experience.
Okay.
What's the problem?
Nobody knows what it is.
Well, a lot of young people do, and that was his audience. Come on, think practically. What's the problem? He opens a physical store in downtown South Bend.
nobody comes.
Not enough footfall.
Go ahead.
VR is something you can do at home.
Okay, there's a lot of forms of competition. That's a little worrisome.
The whole point of virtual reality is for it to be virtual and not like physical place you go.
How many of you, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're getting closer.
Like paying for the service and the experience.
Got to target an audience that can pay. That's a good point. How many of you are of drinking age or pretend to be? Okay, so
Which one?
why? How long you been at Notre Dame? 4 years. How many times you been downtown? A lot.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things to do down there. Go to the Cubs baseball game, go to the Studebaker Museum, or
What?
why do you go to bars? Right, right. So people go downtown, South Bend, you go to bars. There's some restaurants down there. There's no shopping. I mean, you wanna go to like nice dress stores? Not so much downtown. There's not a shopping district to speak of. There is residential, more residential downtown than there used to be, and it's changing. But the bottom line is, to run a VR store, what do you need? Well, you need, the business has to run 365 days of the year. And people are downtown. When do you go to those bars? Nighttime?
Yeah, weekends.
And weekends, right? So at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, there ain't nobody downtown. I mean, people go downtown, so the government offices are there and the bars and restaurants are there. Maybe a tourist goes to the Studebaker Museum or whatever, but the point is, he doesn't have enough traffic to justify the retail store. And he figured that out, so he got a mobile unit. He shows up at parties and places where you get on this big unit and do VR. And he tried other stuff like birthday parties for young kids and made it fun and introduced some food that you could have while you're doing your VR experience. Anyway, I'm telling you more of the story, but I do want you to get to know some of these entrepreneurs and some of their stories. He's ultimately opened in an entertainment complex over in Mishawaka. Did okay there, but not that great. But he's shifted. What do you think he's doing now?
He made a bar with VR in it, combined the.
He's found a much more attractive niche than kids racing cars on VR. Can you guess it? He's doing training in mental health. But it's virtual, so he connects you with the mental health counselor. But it's VR, so you can create the room or the setting, you're sitting on a lake, you're right, and it's avatars, so you don't, people who don't like going to like a counselor or the whole stigma that surrounds mental health, and you know, and he's focused more on minority populations. And he's making a go of it, and he's starting to introduce other forms of training. So he's got a simulator to drive a tractor trailer truck using VR. So you're driving down a highway and shifting gears and the virtual reality sort of training. So we moved from what we call a B2C market, business to consumer, to what we call a B2B market, business to business, and he's making inroads. Anyway, I had him here because we did a thing for the campus last spring on can students really make a difference in the community? And he's kind of outspoken. And he says, well, twice I worked with student consultants. The first time they just brought me solutions. Didn't come to know me, my context, my values, my assumptions, and he literally said to the whole group, big room, I threw it away. When I got their phone, I just threw it away. Then he described the second time, where it's exact opposite. Game changer ideas from the students that he believed in, that he implemented. So you just have to come to establish that relationship. When you think about your stereotypes, because you have them, what are their stereotypes? What are their stereotypes?
About them.
Sorry, stereotypes about us?
Us,
that they-
about you. Because everything's two-way.
Yeah, again, they might probably think that our knowledge, our experience is too theoretical, it's too university.
Okay. You're up in the clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
That we don't care, as like we mentioned.
That you're all rich.
Oh.
That's what they assume.
That's a mistake.
That you're all rich. You got a Notre Dame. It costs over $60,000 a year. You must be rich. When I tell them that 75% of our students are on financial aid, entrepreneurs are always surprised. Because they think of that island up there, Notre Dame, and so they think you're privileged. When they meet a student who's working her way through school, working in the dining hall, they're stunned. Oh, you can't be a Notre Dame student. So they have stereotypes, you have stereotypes. Be honest with yourself about that. Think about what they're thinking about you. So you start to get closer, you start to form the relationship. So their stereotype, your stereotypes about them, their stereotypes about you. Key to this whole thing, the difference maker in this whole thing is don't just go to your sweet spot, to the thing you know a lot about. If you know a lot about websites and the entrepreneur doesn't need a website, don't be doing websites. And so your willingness to embrace that the scope is anything and everything in the business the entrepreneur could need. You're not putting your own money into the business. That's not part of the scope. But all the problems and issues and areas in the business you may need to look at. And for most of you, most of the topics or many of the topics up here are not things you have a background in. Don't worry about that. I'm going to give you tools, give you approaches. I'm going to help you. You'll master them. The beginning point, though, where do we start? Well, two things. First of all, why did I ask you to come up with a name for your consultancy?
Because we're not being students to them, we're consultants to them.
Well, not just to them, to yourself. I want you to think yourself as a professional consultant. But for them, it's symbolic as well. You're not doing a cutesy project for a class, you're providing consulting. In fact, I used to not even tell them you were in a class. I tell them that now for a different reason, but the first thing you're going to do with the client, and you want to try to knock this baby out quickly after your first meeting, is you're going to create a letter of engagement. Because you're trying to signal professionalism. Any consulting job that a professional consultant does starts with some kind of engagement agreement. So you're going to do a letter of engagement. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that on Thursday. But so where would you go to look for a resource?
Modules.
To which module?
An engagement letter, like a template. There was something like that.
Exactly. So if we go back to, where was that? If we go back to you'll find under course documents, letter of engagement, master template, letter of engagement actually written for Japhonia, one of our entrepreneurs, by a student team. Sample letter of engagement written for Rosa by a team. So it's all there for you. And we'll dig into this, but what's the one thing that like you're not allowed to do as a student?
off-campus jobs.
With certain students, yeah, yeah. But like ethically can't cheat, and a key form of cheating is plagiarism, right? Plagiarism. Except it's okay to plagiarize your letter of engagement. So what I'm saying is, if you look at the template, it actually lays out paragraph by paragraph what goes in your letter. You can cut and paste that right into yours. You'll see there's certain paragraphs you have to customize to the entrepreneur. There's a paragraph on what are your goals, not just the entrepreneur, what's the entrepreneur gonna get out of it? What are you gonna get out of it? But, so you might start looking at the sample letters of engagement, but you're gonna quickly turn that around. Hopefully, by the time you have your second meeting with the client, you walk in, hi, good to see you tonight. Here is our completed letter of engagement, and you sign it, I sign it, they sign it, okay? So we'll talk more about the letter of engagement. The other initial thing, so as we're going down this road together, back to this. Sorry. The first thing you're gonna do, and it's gonna take the first 3, at most 4, but around 3 to 4 weeks. So you're not jumping in and producing deliverables. Don't do that. Okay, so there's a method to the madness, and there's a whole system that works in terms of the course. But you know what a business model is? You ever heard that term? What's a business model? Yeah, we're not going to use the business model canvas, but it is a very popular approach to. So a business model captures the essence of a business. It's not a full business plan. It captures the essence of the business. And it has the framework we're going to use. You're going to address 6 questions in your write-up, and there are sample business models on the site. But the reason I'm going to have you write a business model is it'll allow you to wrap your arms around the business. It'll force you to address some questions like, what are the key sources of revenue in the business? Who are they targeting? What's their profit model look like? How are they differentiated or not? So you're going to put together the business model for each of your 2 clients. And that serves 2 purposes. It will get you much more comfortable with a holistic picture of the business. Okay. It's the first thing that most of the stuff that is graded is at the end, but it does get graded. As does your letter of engagement. But what are you allowed to do with the letter of engagement? Just take the thing and customize it, right? If you do that, you get 100 for the letter of engagement. So that's the easiest points you'll get all semester. But the business model, you don't have to produce that in a day. You'll have weeks to do that. That's where you're doing your background research. You're sort of getting familiar with, well, it's a hair salon. Let me learn a little bit more about how hair salons operate. What's the industry look like here? And what's the market look like here in South Bend? So the period of time where you're putting the business model together is your research time to learn about that business, about its market, about its competition, and so forth. So it serves the purpose of you learning more holistically the whole business, and you give it to the client when you're done with it. So you're giving them the first thing you're giving them. Here, we spent considerable time doing research and thinking. We've captured your business model. Here it is. That's a good thing in terms of relationship building with the client. So there's an option if you don't want to do a business model and do something much more involved called a C model. I don't encourage it, but if anybody's interested in doing a much more comprehensive analysis of the business itself, I can walk you through how to do a C model, but the business model will suffice, okay? So that's where we're headed. I'm gonna start talking about how to do the business model. You have your first meeting coming up. After which, what are you gonna be trying to do? Write a letter of engagement, right? But I want you to start, so that's where we're going. You're gonna introduce the business model, you're gonna start doing research on the business model. And put the business model together for your client. Meanwhile, you're trying to prepare for that first meeting. Which I know when Danielle says have fun, you go, come on, this is work, this is scary, this is different, this is new, this is. But the two things she said, have fun and be yourself, are the essence of how you want to think about this. But what I've done is put a document together for you in terms of things to maybe think about for your first meeting, okay? And we're gonna take some time. So now that you have who your client, what's the first thing you should do now that you know who your clients are?
Search, scan.
See if you can find a Facebook page for them or any kind of social media presence or a website for them. Don't be surprised at what you encounter in terms of, you know, they'll have a social media thing for their business, but they'll be talking about how they went to some club last night on a social media post that has nothing to do with their business. But be thinking about, so we're gonna do some role plays. And we'll see what happens. So Tom will be the entrepreneur, or I'll be the entrepreneur. We'll sit up here with you guys, pretending we're having a first meeting. And just break the ice, get you used to it, get you more comfortable with it, so that when you have that first meeting, you knock it out of the park.